Planning for divorce often looks like planning on divorce. Why does that matter? Some financial advisors now recommend that people plan for divorce the way they plan for taxes or other liability exposure. On paper, that sounds like responsible risk management, but inside a marriage, it can sound very different. Planning for divorce often looks like planning on divorce. To the person proposing the plan, it may feel like prudent preparation, using prenuptial agreements or financial structures to reduce uncertainty. But to the other spouse or potential spouse, the message can sound like something else entirely. What was intended as precaution can feel like prediction. Once that signal enters the relationship, the dynamic often shifts, and not for the better. Marriage is traditionally entered into and experienced as a permanent partnership, a lifelong covenant built on trust and shared commitment. When legal planning introduces a streamlined path to exit, the relationship can subtly move from cooperation and placing the welfare of the marriage ahead of individual self-interest toward an every man and every woman for himself attitude. That shift may not be intentional, but perception matters. Here's an important clarification. Prenuptial or postnuptial agreements are not always misguided. In some situations, they make practical sense, such as second marriages with children from prior relationships, substantial premarital assets or family businesses, anticipated inheritances, or complicated international property and other kinds of interests, for example. In those circumstances, a carefully structured agreement can clarify expectations and reduce uncertainty for both spouses and potential spouses. But the legal document is rarely the central issue. The real issue is the message the planning communicates. Expectations shape relationships. Once divorce planning becomes explicit, it rarely returns quietly to the background. The irony is simple. The greatest risk in divorce planning is often not the legal agreement, it is the signal the planning sends about the marriage itself. For young couples entering a first marriage with few assets, prenuptial agreements often solve a problem that does not yet exist, and hopefully never will. If neither person brings substantial property, a business, or complicated financial obligations into the marriage, there may be very little to divide in the first place. The marriage itself is the project. The assets will be built together. Yet a prenuptial agreement asks the couple to negotiate the terms of a possible breakup before the marriage even begins. That conversation sends a message whether anyone intends it to or not. When two people with little to divide begin a marriage by planning how they will divide it, the practical legal benefit may be minimal, while the cynical message it conveys can be huge. For many young couples, negotiating the terms of divorce at the start of a marriage introduces a note of conditional commitment the relationship never needed, and that starts the marriage off on a sour adversarial note.